Your triggers actually have very little to do with the person or the situation that's in front of you. What if instead the triggers inside of you are messengers? They're pointing to something within you that is asking to be seen. It is asking to be healed. It is asking for some love and some attention. That might flip the script a little bit when somebody else is triggering us and help take us out of victim mode, where we're looking at the other person as our persecutor. Welcome back to the Daily Surrender. I'm your host, Jennifer Ragazzo, and today we're going to be diving into something that every single one of us experiences, and that's being triggered. Instead of seeing our triggers as something to avoid, something that's like bad, we don't want it to happen, something where we blame other people, what if instead we saw them as invitations? Invitations to heal, invitations to regulate our nervous system, invitations to go deeper into self-love and self-reflection and alignment with God's truth. That is what we're going to be exploring today on the podcast. So let's get started, my friends. All right, so triggers are a very normal human response. It is really normal to feel the things inside of us when someone else is perhaps saying something we don't want to hear. We might say things like, oh, she made me feel that way. He's disrespecting me. And we put our dukes up. Let's be really real. When we get triggered, it's our knee-jerk reaction to point the finger outward at someone else. Like, hey, they're not seeing my value. They're making me feel this way. They're making me wrong. And I know for me, when I get triggered, a knee-jerk response that I used to have a lot, I was a very defensive person, was to put my dukes up. I was like, hey, you want to fight? Does any of this sound familiar to you? When we are feeling that like heat rise up in our body, when we feel the frustration, when we feel really hurt and we want to react, and it feels so very personal and really unfair, and we're blaming and we're withdrawing and we're defending and we're shutting down and we're lashing out, those, my friends, are opportunities. They're opportunities and invitations to see the triggers, the things that are inside of us, as a gift. So what if I told you that your triggers actually have very little to do with the person or the situation that's in front of you? What if instead the triggers inside of you are messengers? They're pointing to something within you that is asking to be seen. It is asking to be healed. It is asking for some love and some attention. That might flip the script a little bit when somebody else is triggering us and help take us out of victim mode, where we're looking at the other person as our persecutor. So let's talk about it a little bit more. We want to think about our triggers as being like little alarm bells. They are revealing where we're still holding on to pain. We might still be holding on to unprocessed emotions or subconscious patterns. They show us where in our nervous system, where we might have some dysregulation, where we might still be stuck in fight or flight, freeze mode, or even fawn mode. And the beautiful thing is, if we can shift our perspective, our triggers become the very tools that lead us into greater emotional freedom. So let's say you get triggered because a friend cancels her plans last minute to hang out with you. You had plans for dinner on Friday. They were set on the calendar for the last 2 months, and your friend calls and cancels last minute. On the surface, you might feel angry. You might feel really frustrated. You might think, they don't value my time. I prioritized this and they didn't prioritize this. But if you pause and you look deeper, what's really happening? Maybe it's touching an old wound of feeling rejected. Maybe it's bringing up memories of a time that you felt really unseen or really unimportant as a child. And maybe inside of that experience for you develops a belief. Maybe you've got a limiting belief that you're just not that important. You're not very valuable. So when a friend cancels on you, that pulls on that belief, that reinforces it. And that really hurts, right? It really hurts when we have a distorted or limiting belief inside of us because of conditioning from some experience in our life. And then someone externally is reinforcing it because we're writing a whole story around it. Our friend could have canceled because they're sick or emergency came up in their life. It might have absolutely nothing to do with us, but we're making it really personal because, again, it's pulling on that limiting belief that we're just not valuable. And so when that friend is canceling, we're getting triggered. And what's really getting triggered is that wound inside of us. What's really getting pulled at is that limiting belief. And because that limiting belief is not based on truth, the truth is that we are inherently valuable. We've been created valuable. Nothing can change our value. No external circumstance can change the value that we have in God's eyes because we were created on purpose for a purpose, right? So that's truth. But the experiences, the belief systems that we have, the constructs that we have can feel very, very real to us. So bringing up these memories, these feelings inside of us when our friend cancels on us and these old wounds of being rejected surfacing, feelings perhaps of being really unimportant as a child, they're gifts for us. They're invitations. That trigger isn't actually about your friend. It's about you. It's about the wound that's already there asking to be acknowledged and to be healed. So when we can flip the script, so to speak, around our triggers, like when they happen, and instead of pointing the finger, like the immediate reaction to point the finger and get really angry at the other person, and instead say, okay, I'm feeling these things and I know that they're happening for me. They're inside of me and they're for me. We can use them to help continue our own healing. We can use them to help us regulate our nervous system through the triggers. So what do we do when we have this awareness? Instead of reacting in blame, we can use our triggers as a pathway to nervous system regulation. I know that sounds like kind of weird. And why would we do that? Because the trigger is the thing that's dysregulating our nervous system. Jen, I don't understand what you're talking about. Hang tight here. I'm going to explain this. So here's some of the things that we can do. So if we feel that trigger, again, you're listening here. I gave you an example. You had a calendar date with a friend and, it took you months to even get the calendar date. And then your friend last minute cancels and you start to feel these feelings come up inside of you and you're hurt. You really just feel hurt. You feel angry and upset and you feel tossed aside and like you weren't placed as a top priority in your friend's life. So those are the feelings that are coming up inside of you. So what can you do? Well, let's go through some things. Number one, we can pause. So pause and breathe. Just pause and breathe. When you feel triggered, again, this is with this self-awareness that our triggers are for us. They're really about us. They're not about the other person. So we're going to feel them. It's not about not feeling triggered, but it's like feeling them and pause and breathe. So the pausing and the breathing is slowing us down. It's helping get us out of reactive mode so that we're not immediately reacting, but instead we're taking a really deep breath and perhaps we're noticing the physical sensations that are occurring in our body. What are you feeling? Is your throat really tight? Like, are you feeling there's some words that need to be spoken, but you're not speaking them? Is your belly like flip-flopping? Do you feel tightness in your shoulders? Just do a body scan and just notice the physical sensations that are in your body. Notice where you're feeling them. What does it remind you of? Perhaps the feelings that you're getting in your shoulders or in your stomach or your throat are going to pull on old memories. So just acknowledging it, just acknowledging, okay, I'm breathing, I'm feeling these things, I'm feeling them in my body. Just the acknowledgement alone helps to shift your nervous system from being really reactive, like that's a very fight or flight response, to just awareness. It's like self-awareness. So notice what we're noticing. So that's the first thing we can do. The second thing that we can do is to name the feeling and the pattern. So we can say something to ourselves like, okay, so what am I feeling right now? Hey, my stomach is doing flip-flops. My throat is really tight. My shoulders are really tight. Alongside of that, what am I feeling? All right, I'm feeling really rejected. I feel really unseen right now. I feel disrespected. And then we can ask questions like, all right, so where else in my life have I felt this? This is following the threads of what we feel right now. So it's like you're being triggered and these feelings are coming up, but we're acknowledging that the feelings that are coming up right now are just pulling. They're pulling on something. They're pulling on a belief. And the belief, again, might be very limiting. So it could be like, I'm not valuable enough for my friend. And that pulls on a memory of being really deeply rejected as a child. So that could have been the conditioning that led to that belief. So when we follow the threads, we get to bring attention to some of those subconscious wounds that are begging for us to show them some love, show them some grace, show them some compassion. So when we ask ourselves that very powerful question of like, well, where else in my life have I felt this? It helps to, again, bring subconscious wounding to the surface. So we might not even be aware that we have that wounding or that we have that limiting belief, but the triggers help us, like they help us follow the breadcrumbs to get to where we really need to go. So we're bringing things up and into the light. So the next thing that we can do is we can soothe and recenter. So instead of looking for someone else to validate us or to fix us or to make us feel special, we can take the opportunity in that moment. So perhaps we're not feeling special, we're not feeling seen, we're not feeling validated. We can take the opportunity to comfort ourselves, to validate ourselves, to remind ourselves that we're loved, to remind ourselves that we're valuable, to give ourselves what we need in that moment. So maybe that looks like for you placing your hands on your heart and saying something like, I am seen, I am loved, I am valuable, I am worthy. Maybe it's a prayer. Maybe it's a prayer, a very personal prayer between you and God, where you are lifting up your state of consciousness, where you are getting yourself out of that lower state where you're stuck in the gunk and the junk and the muck of your limiting beliefs, and you've got those distorted thoughts ruling your emotions at that moment, like, I'm not worthy, I suck, I'm not special enough, all of those things. But we're praying and we're uplifting our state of consciousness into the divine mind of God, where we know that we are inherently worthy. We are created on purpose, for purpose. We are valuable, always valuable. Maybe it's just simply breathing, using our breath to move that stuck, stagnant, heavy energy out. It's just simple. I love doing 4-4-7 breathing, where I breathe in for the count of 4, I hold at the top for 4, and I blow that out for 7 counts. And I do that until the initial feelings calm down and leave me. And then the next thing that we can do, the fourth thing that we can do, is to respond from truth, not from our wounding. So once you've calmed yourself down, so this is where, again, naming the feeling in the pattern, soothing and recentering, using our breath. So once we've gotten ourselves a little bit more grounded and calmer, this is where we can respond from the truth, not the wound. So we get to now decide how to respond. So do we now need to express a boundary? Like, is there something that does need to be said perhaps to our friend that canceled plans last minute? Is there something that we need to clarify? Like, perhaps it's just asking the simple question of our friend, like, hey, could you just share a little bit more about what happened to make the plans fall through last minute, just to help me understand? That would really feel good to me. Right now, I'm struggling. Maybe it's like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that next time we put plans on the calendar, it would be awesome if you could prioritize them and give me like at least a few days heads up notice if it's not an emergency. Obviously, if it's an emergency and you're sick or your child's sick or something, but that would feel better to me right now. Or do you simply need to let it go? I find most times for myself, when I feel triggered and I work through it, it's about me. So oftentimes I let it go. Or if I'm coming from a place of like, I'm really calm and I'm recentered, I've done some breathing, I've self-reflected, I've soothed myself. That's when maybe I go back and I have a conversation because there's some clarity that I need, or I do feel that I need to use my voice, and that's very important to me. So when we act from a really centered place, Our responses they're rooted in love. They're not rooted in fear or defense. Oftentimes when we give ourselves that space, when we feel the trigger and we calm ourselves down, we're like, okay, this is for me. How is this for me? Me and this other person, let's just assume that they're a person that's really special to you or they're important to you in your life. The people who trigger us are not always, but let's just assume that they might be. They might be a partner, a spouse, a child, a coworker that you spend every day with. So that's an important person in your life. That relationship takes priority in your life. So working through these things without the emotional charge helps to benefit the relationship too. So getting ourselves calm and grounded and also aware that this trigger is for us in one way or another helps us to remove the emotional charge and not fear taking a look at like, oh, why is this pulling on something in me? The other person might be upset or they're bringing up a really hard topic and it's pulling on something in me. So me taking the time to go see what that is and to get myself grounded and calm and then revisiting a conversation, that benefits me and it benefits them. But me reacting to them and like, again, putting my dukes up and getting into an argument over something that's could potentially be like really, really silly, that's not going to help me move forward and that's not going to help them move forward. So again, we want to be able to act at all times from a really centered, grounded place that is rooted in love. That is always the best place for us to come from and to react from. So when we start to see our triggers as invitations rather than attacks, everything shifts. We actually start to welcome them. It's like, I'm feeling triggered in this conversation right now. Why? What's here for me? There's some unattended wounding in me. There may be some distorted beliefs that I'm hanging on to. Let me take a look at them. Thank you so much. Trigger, whatever the trigger is. That's a choice, guys. It is a choice to do this. I'm presenting to you guys a choice. But when we start to see the triggers as being for us and as these divine interventions, we can get ourselves out of the cycles of blame and reactivity. And when we're out of the cycle of blame and reactivity, we get to start healing the very wounds that keep us trapped to begin with. Like, what are we doing here on this journey as a human being, if not continuing to heal, to grow, to evolve, to become the best me we can be, to become who God created us to be? All kinds of gunk and junk of this world and in our own conditioning that can get in the way of us being the best me we can be. And when we approach everything with humility and honesty, and we look at everything as being for us, we can use things like triggers to help our growth, to help our continued ascension and evolution as human beings into being who God created us to be and into receiving the abundant life, a life that's filled with more freedom, confidence in self. And we start to move through life so much more peacefully, more centered, more connected to the divine within and to God's truth. And what I have found in practicing this and using my triggers as invitations and gifts to take a look at what's inside of me, I've cleared more and more and more and more. I get triggered less. And when I do get triggered, it's light. It's like little. I'm so much quicker about turning it around. I'm quicker about this whole process that I'm talking to you about today. That doesn't mean that I absolutely never get triggered and don't have to take some time to explore that. But I now know that in the exploration of the roots of my triggers, if that makes sense, like why is this trigger here and where is it rooted, the exploration of it, there's always gifts. There's gifts that are for me and there's gifts that invite me into greater states of freedom. So here's the thing. God allows these moments in our life not as punishment. It's like not at all as punishment. They're here to free us. So every single trigger is an opportunity, my friends, to surrender. Every single trigger is an opportunity to, again, take a look at what's inside, to release what's no longer serving us, and to step into deeper alignment with who we were always meant to be. So my invitation for you in this week is the next time you feel triggered by anything, whether it's a traffic jam and you're late for your next appointment, or your mother-in-law calls and you immediately start to feel annoyed and like she's criticizing you, or your husband brings up a money conversation and you hate talking about money and it just always pulls at something inside of you, whatever the thing is, I want you to take that trigger and instead of reacting in a way that you might have in the past, like immediately responding, pause, breathe, go through the things that I talked about here today and ask yourself, okay, what is this moment, this interaction with this person or this trigger, that thing that's pulling inside of me, what is it trying to show me? Just explore it. Have fun with it. Like, get excited about it. And then meet yourself with grace and compassion. Grace and compassion. You are a human being. You every day are learning how to do this human experience and do it better and do it in a way where you are more true to your authentic self. Every single trigger is just another doorway leading you home to yourself and the divine within you. So my friends, if this resonated with you, I would really love to hear your thoughts. Please rate and review the podcast. Share your reflections with me. If you feel called, pass this episode along to someone who might need this reminder today. Until next time, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep aligning with the beautiful divine truth within you. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Surrender. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Send me a message, share this with a friend, or leave a review. Or remember, true healing and freedom come when we let go, surrender, and trust that God's way is so much better than our way. Until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep walking in peace.